Welcome to the Derek Diamond Experience podcast, where every week I take a look into the world of film and television with those who have lived it and experienced it. I am your host, Derek Diamond. Thank you to those who joined me last week for my first live interview on Facebook Live and had so much fun doing it that we're doing it again this week. And joined along with me is writer, director, and actor Mike Mayhall. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. You know, we were just talking, it's been interesting. I feel like I've been leading off every interview the last couple of months of how COVID-19 has impacted your project. So it's like all you have to say is COVID and people understand it. So how has COVID been affecting you as far as your work has been going?
Full stop, man. Just everything, just complete stop. We were a little fortunate that we were in the final edits of our second season of a show that I directed called A House Divided, written and by Dan Garcia, who's my partner on Bronx SIU. So we were kind of finishing that as COVID started ramping up somewhere in the end of March. We were putting the final touches on it. And then when we kind of came out of the editing room, our entire industry was shut down. I mean, we saw signs of it. I was working on an acting role on Queen of the South, and I was supposed to be a couple days on that. And I had one day, and then the next week I was supposed to come back, and they called me right before I came back, and they're like, nope, we're done. We're out. All the production shut down. And then we were supposed to be in Atlanta filming and then overseas filming, and forget about it, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely understand. You know, we were also talking, my primary day job is I work for a minor league baseball team we have here in town, and
sports.
The film industry shut down, the sports industry shut down. I remember I was doing another show when I got the breaking news that the NBA had suspended its season. Yeah. And then from there, it's, baseball looks like it's finally going to happen here in a few weeks as far as the Major League Baseball goes. NBA is going to try and finish out their season in Orlando. And
is that finally going to happen? I heard talks, and I haven't paid much attention just because every day, I can't decide if every day is the same day or just a continuation of one big day since we stepped into quarantine. Yeah, and it all just feels the same.
The days just kind of blend together. It's like I can differentiate days by what show I do, or if I have a show scheduled, like, okay, well, it's Sunday because I knew I was going to interview you, so I'm like, okay, that's on Sunday, so that does help out a little bit. But yeah, I think they're going to start end of July, I believe, like very end of July or early August is when they're going to start back.
Going to start up.
And I've heard other productions that are starting to ramp back up as far as, on like the major Hollywood level. But we'll see what happens. I know theaters were saying they were going to open back up, but all the big releases keep getting pushed back. I think, Tenet and Mulan got pushed back to August from July. So it's just, I tell people it's a very ebb and flow type thing. It seems like it changes by the hour.
It does, and the more the cases sort of ramp up in Texas and Florida and California and Arizona, another hot spot, there's several of them. The more those go up, I just think we're going to see more things closing and pushing. It's impossible to, so we wanted to film our third season of A House Divided in mid-July. And we're looking into doing that, but the cases keep skyrocketing, and it's so hard to sort of, corral like our 40-person crew. We're just 40 people, and so it's not that we're worried about that 40. It's that when they go home, who are their significant others talking to and hanging out with, and who are those people hanging out with? And you just have to think out and out and out. Because the last thing we want to do is get anybody sick, and it's, I have, I suffer from asthma. And so I don't deal well with respiratory infections, and I have no desire to get something that seems to be killing people with pre-existing conditions. Like, it just, no thanks.
Yeah, no, it's a crazy time. It's a very crazy time. So let's backtrack to the very beginning. So
Sure.
where are you originally from, and what was it that made you want to pursue a career in film and TV?
Oh, wow, we're going way back, huh? Okay.
Very beginning.
The very beginning. So I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, and that's actually sort of where I'm sitting right now. I'm right outside of New Orleans. And what made me want to get into theater and film? It's something I've always wanted to do. I can remember just watching television going, I think I can do that. And I had no concept of what it was. I just knew that like I wanted to be on the TV doing whatever that they were doing. And so I got involved in a local community theater, which led to high school, which then led to me going to college. And I studied directing and playwriting and acting all through college. I managed to cram a 4-year degree into 5. And then right after college, I just hit the bricks and just started performing at regional summer stock and regional theaters. And then I went down to Orlando. I lived in Orlando for almost 10 years. Did theater, theme parks, film, and then LA, and then now New Orleans. So that's a summation of what I've been doing.
So you mentioned theme parks. Is it like doing stage shows at theme parks?
Yeah, so I did. They had big stunt shows out there, and I had an action stunt background, so I did a lot of the stunt shows, and then I did a lot of improv street theater, which was amazing, and hooked up with a group called the Longshoremen. Head by Oddities Entertainment, Todd Zimmerman out in Orlando, Florida. And it was a physical comedy improv, and it was just a blast. I did that for years. Worked at Universal Studios, Disney. Yeah, those are the 3 big parks. And then just side gigged whenever I got the chance. Hustle, always hustling.
I've heard that a lot, is hustle. But I mean, you have to be persistent in what you want to do, especially with that type of industry. It's funny you mention performers at theme parks, because it takes me back to the last few times that I went to Disney World. One of my favorite aspects of it, because there are so many little things to do at theme parks that not a lot of people know about. Like, you think of the big rides and some of the shows, like with Disney, you have Festival of the Lion King, you have the Fantasmic show. But one of my favorite things at Disney are the people who dress up as janitors, and they do the drum performances.
The drums.
Yeah. Stuff
Yeah.
like that. You just randomly happen by it, and you
just stumble by.
Yeah, and then you get lost in it, and you see how great it is. And I love little performances like that.
It's awesome. And those guys are they are so talented. Like, I don't think people understand the depth of talent that sits in Orlando. I mean, these are entertainers from New York and in LA and Chicago, from all around the country and the world, and they are just amazingly talented. And I think sometimes they get kind of they don't get looked at because they're working at the theme park. But you got Broadway dancers and actors working at Disney doing improv and sketch theater, and it's awesome. It's really just great. Yeah, and you're right. The little shows, those are things that I did. I can't drum. I have no musical ability, but those are the types of shows that I would do. Like just the improv things that would just pop up in the corner.
Well, that's how some of the best things happen, are just by improv.
Yeah.
Those organic moments that you can't really replicate, as far as you can plan stuff out and script things out, but sometimes it's just living in the moment and like thinking, oh, this might be cool, and then you just do it. That's where some of the best stuff comes from.
I agree 100%.
So you did theater. What was it that made you want to transition to then working in film and TV specifically?
I don't think it was necessarily one thing. When I got into theater, I went to a little bitty school in Natchitoches, Louisiana, and it had one of the best undergrad programs in the area, I think the tri-state area. So I really wasn't thinking much about film. I guess in my mind, film was like the thing that happened way over there, and it was, you had to be, and like my mind was like, you already had to be famous to be on the television. I didn't understand that there were day players, and I didn't know anything about it. And when I got to Orlando, someone's like, well, you should get a television agent. And I was like, you could do that? Like, I had no, really? I was like, so I got a television agent and I just slowly started auditioning, and I basically learned by making a ton of mistakes. There was no one out there to really educate me. I just did something, and if it was the right thing, they were like, I didn't get in trouble. And if it was the wrong thing, I got yelled at, and I was like, don't do that again. And then I got my first stunt gig for a Disney movie called Stuck in the Suburbs. And I was actually on set watching a real film crew work, because I had done some commercials, but it just for some reason it didn't resonate. And when I got there and I had my own trailer and a contract that was like an inch thick, I had to fill out, which I didn't understand. And the director and the AD, and I had no understanding of the hierarchy of how it works. And I'm still confused. I was just like, this is it, man. Like, yeah, I think I found it. And ever since then, it's just been a path basically to get me where I'm sitting today.
Well, and it's one of those things that once you do it, you know if you want to do it or not.
Yeah.
Because people don't realize still the process that goes through into making even, a 15-minute short film a reality. It's so many hours. Like you see the end product that looks great, but you don't see the behind the scenes stuff as far as and I know you write as well, just the hours and hours it takes to get the script the way that you want it. And then if you're acting, preparing for the role, if you're the DP, making sure you have the right gear with lighting and things like that. It's interesting.
Right.
It's interesting to see, and to use a phrase here, how the sausage is made. But it's one of those things that and once you do it, you know very quickly if it's for you or not, because it's really not for everybody.
No, it really isn't. But if the bug bites you, it forget about it. You're done. Yeah. How long was your short? How many minutes was your short film that you did? I didn't even ask the name. What was the name of it?
It was called The Parker Syndrome.
The Parker Syndrome, that's right.
And it was just under 15 minutes. I want to say it was between 13 and 14 with credits.
So that's a beast of a short film. A 15-minute short film, is huge. People don't get that. 15 minutes, yeah. But you're talking, you get days, weeks, a month plus of preparation. All the free man hours, probably hundreds and hundreds of hours just to get that done. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can only imagine the process of going through making, a series or a feature film, getting that made, because with the short that I did, it took a month plus of preparation. It took us 2 days to shoot it. And then, editing, because I edited the film as well. Between balancing that and, doing this podcast, and then my day job took a few months to do, just because to carve out time. But it's something that I wouldn't trade for anything. Like you said, it was the bug. Once I did it, I knew that was what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's addictive a little bit,
Yeah.
In a weird way.
No, it really is. If you love it, once you do it, that's all you want to do. And as exhausted as you can be, because I was exhausted after my short, but I was like, you know what? I could do another one next weekend.
Yeah, I bet you could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after, you had been acting, what was it that made you want to decide you wanted to try out writing and directing? Because I feel like a lot of actors, once they act for a certain period of time, they want to try to hand out at other aspects of the industry. So what was it that made you want to branch out into that?
Well, let me just respond to that last sentence you said about how most actors, they kind of branch into it. So I have never been on a set as a director or an actor if I'm next to Video Village, where the lead actor wasn't trying to direct the scene in some capacity. I think every actor just really wants to be a director. Like they have their scene in their head as their character, and they want to make sure it happens a certain way. So for me though, I think it was the same thing. Like I was always writing, and I had this wild imagination and all these thoughts and stories in my head, and I just I had to put them down, or I was just going to go crazy, I think. And I started writing just for me. I would write the stories that I wanted to play as an actor, because I'm sitting in Orlando, Florida, writing a story about an epic sword fighting, story, and I'm like, there's no way I'm ever going to afford to be able to make this movie, but I can write the story and sort of live vicariously through the story I write. And whenever I had the opportunity, whenever someone would hand me the reins to direct a scene or to just oversee how something was done, I just jumped into it. And finally, one day, I was sitting in. I just recently moved back to Orlando, to Louisiana, and I was like, I want to do an independent film. I didn't know how to do it. I just wanted to see if I could, but I was sort of just going, I was all wishy-washy about it. And my friends basically were like, you've been directing and writing for years. You're pretty good at it. Why don't you just, do it, and we'll back your play. Like, we believe in you. Even if you don't believe in you, we believe in you enough. So just stop talking about it and go make it happen. And it was really just like that. And like, once I made that decision, I wrote a script, I raised the money, and I shot it. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I did it. And Jake's Road, that was the outcome of Jake's Road, my first feature.
Well, and that's the best way to learn, honestly, is just to do it. And I even tell people who are going to film school, you can't really replicate the on-the-job training that you get by actually doing it. So, no, I mean, total props to you for that. And the cool thing about writing, which I'm sure you've discovered with your time doing it, it's cool that you get to create the sandbox that everybody else gets to play.
Yeah.
You create the characters.
So much fun. Yeah. Well, you experience this in your short film, that like I love it when the actor takes what I've written and they make it their own. They don't change it. They embody it, and suddenly they're saying the lines the way I hear it in my head, and I'm just like, wow! Now it's all coming together because I get it, and they get it, and we get it, and so if we get it, the audience is going to get it, and I get so excited. And I just get excited right now. I'm like, I want to go film something.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, and I discovered that for the first time doing the Parker Syndrome when we were doing rehearsals. Once I had cast the actors, we did a couple of read-throughs all as a group before we actually started filming. And almost seeing, your words come to life is really cool and really satisfying. And like you said, the actors... And what I love especially about I call them passion projects. Some don't like that term, but it's kind of what it is. But seeing them when they care enough to make it their own, you can tell that like they're invested in it, which makes you even more confident and make you even more into it. I remember it like it was yesterday. One of the actors just added a new dynamic to one of the more dramatic lines and sequences of the film, and I'm like, man, why didn't I think of that?
I mean, you take credit because you're the director, and you're like, it was really, no, right? No, I understand completely what you're talking about. Because it's it's such a group effort. You can't, one person really can't claim all the credit for a particular moment. There's just too many elements for that to happen.
And that's one of the reasons why I think film is the greatest art form out there, because it's a true collaboration and it takes so many people for it to work. I use the analogy that a film is a machine, and whether it's the director, writer, actor, even down to PAs, everyone's cogs in the machine, and it takes all of them moving together in order for it to work.
Oh, it so does. It so does. I mean, I would just be lost without my crew. I mean, just they're... Man, 100%.
So I do have to ask you this before we get into, because I want to talk about your show, Bronx SIU, which was actually nominated for an Emmy, which I think is absolutely fantastic. You were a part of a film that I actually recently featured on my show a few weeks ago called The Dinner Party.
Mr. Miles Doliak.
Yep. I had him on my show, and he was fantastic. So how was your experience making that? Because I actually really like that movie. And that horror's not really my type of thing, but I love the dynamic of that movie.
It was crazy. It was a crazy movie. So I had two hats on that. So I played Jeff, and then and I don't make it to, I don't last too long. And then I put on my fight choreographer, stunt coordinator hat, and drawn upon my stunt background and directing ability to help block out some of the fight scenes. It was great. So Miles and I met on my first feature, Jake's Road. I cast him in the role of Heath, and we struck up a friendship, and we've just been buddies ever since through all of his movies. At once or twice, I've been in a few of them, just cameos, and it was great working on The Dinner Party. It was just wild though, man, because it's like I don't want to give it away, but go watch it. It's just an experience because you're going down this one road, and then everything just turns like on a dime. It turns, and it's you're in a completely different world, and suddenly you have to survive the next third of this story, and hope that you make it out unscathed. But of course, no one really makes it out. You know. They don't come out the same way they went in.
The interesting thing about it is that because I had recently saw Knives Out, so I love the whole. That one. Yeah, Knives Out was great. It was my favorite movie of 2019. But what I like about the murder mystery type of film, and even theater as well, is the interaction that the cast have with each other. Because to me, all the characters are important. They all have a role. They have a reason to be there. There's no real throwaway type of character. So I love the dynamic. You know, the long scene with everyone at the table, and you just see things like you're just waiting for things to hit the fan, if you will, and then it does, and it just turns that whole genre on its head. And then the ending, in no way could I have seen that coming. I won't give it away because everybody should go watch it, but it was really cool. And like I said, horror and thrillers aren't really my thing because those freaked me out as a kid, but I loved it. And it seemed like a fun set to be on.
Oh, it was fun. Miles has a good set. He does. He's a good guy, and it really does. You know, it really does start with the top on a movie set. You know, if your top people there are leading the charge with you know, smiles and positivity, it really just kind of filters down to the crew. I love working with Miles. I'd work with him all the time if I could.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your series, Bronx SIU, which, as I mentioned, was nominated for an Emmy. So congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
How was your reaction when you found out that you were nominated for that?
Wow. So last season, our first season, my lead actors got nominated. And I just remember for an Emmy, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Supporting Actor. And I just remember being over the moon excited for them. And so this year when I got nominated for Best Director, I was really sort of in shock. And I think I was also in shock because I wasn't ready to feel so excited about it. You know, because excuse me, I just gotta get comfortable here. You know, we make the series and we get into this and we make all these projects, and I wasn't making anything to get an award. It just sort of happened. We just more on a lark. We were like, well, should we submit this year? And I was like, yeah, let's just do it. We did it last year. We should do it this year. So we did, and we got nominated. I think I'm still a little in shock. I couldn't believe it. I'm just now kind of coming and relaxing about going, oh yeah, I guess that really happened, because it feels a little unreal, because I just think I'm just a guy sitting in New Orleans trying to make projects and shows that like people will enjoy, and I want to work with my buddies and get us involved in projects. So to have a group of peers basically vote and say, yeah, we think you got some chops, it's humbling, man. It really is. It really is humbling. That's the best word I can describe it.
No, and it's like I said, it's absolutely fantastic, and that's that's a really big honor. So again, congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
That's so cool.
I appreciate it.
So what was your inspiration for creating the Bronx SIU series?
Yeah, I really have to give that up to Dan Garcia. Way back in, was it 2017, he came to me and he says, hey man, I'm working on this little series. I have this idea. It's kind of a dark cop show, but it's sort of, it's dark and twisty. And he came to me with 5 episodes or 5.5 episodes, and the 6th was an outline. And I read them over and I was like, this is really good. There's something here. So we went together and I did a rewrite, finished episode 5 and wrote episode 6. And then kind of went back and forth on the script. And it was his inspiration. Dan is from the Bronx. So he was sort of taking stories that he had heard and putting them into a police procedural context. Like some of the murders and the strange things that had happened. He's like, these are real things that have happened to me or around me. And so now he's solving those cases. So that's how the first season got kicked off. But once I got into the writing, I realized that I really wanted to make a cop show that was less about solving the crime and more about the cops' personal lives and how it starts to affect how they solve crimes, or how as opposed to most cop shows you see the work is affecting their personal life, but this is more how is their personal life affecting their work. So then in season 2, I decided to make it much more all-encompassing. So the plots were all tangled up with each other. Everything, you could watch each show separately, but if you watch it in its entirety, you really see the full arc of things. And so we just went further down the road of character development, and sort of what a tangled web we weave sort of thing. And I think it paid off. Season 2 is really, it's got some really good moments in it, and it hits some really interesting buttons. So that's sort of the genesis of where we started to where we're at now.
Well, it's interesting because, whenever I was sent an episode of your show, I try not to compare one project to another. And, I was instantly thinking of shows like Law and Order, like CSI, which I've never really gotten into those types of shows. But what I liked about Bronx SIU is exactly what you mentioned, is that it delves more into the characters and their lives, and it's like the crimes just so happen to be there. Like it's there to solve and to push the story along. But ultimately, to me, what a film or even a series is about is the characters and the dynamic that they have with each other that really
100%.
drive the story. And kind of going, a little bit back to the dinner party, the cast and their interaction is what drove that story. I
100%.
felt the same with the episode of Bronx SIU that I watched. So I personally really enjoyed it. I thought that was a good route to go, focusing on the characters rather than just, here are these people.
Here's the crime of the week, right? Yeah. Thank you very much. And I should send you episode 6, because episode 3 and 6 sort of touch on each other. So episode 3. That's when. That's when Homeboy comes out of his coma.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually probably the most procedural that we get on our show, because that had sort of this case that they were working on, which dealt with things from episode 1 and season 1. So it was all sort of wrapped up. I'm glad you liked it, man. Yeah, that was a fun episode to really do. We had a lot of fun. We filmed down in Chinatown, down in Brooklyn, I think, right on the street there. It was great.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, is where did you guys film it? And kind of walk me through the process of filming for television, because I've talked with several filmmakers, but television is a subject that I've only talked about sparingly on this show. So what are the differences between prepping for a film and prepping for filming TV?
So I might be the wrong guy to answer this question for you, because we filmed Bronx SIU and A House Divided like a movie.
Okay.
We prep it like a movie. We have 6 episodes, and we shoot all of them at the same time and all out of order. I was the sole director on Bronx, and that's not true. Dan came in to help me. I caught the flu and I was out for 3 days, so he filled in for me. But other than that, it was just me. But everything is out of order. So if we're going to go film these scenes in the police station, we're not breaking down one scene or one episode. I break down all the episodes, all of the moments that take place in this police station, and we bang them out all right there. And we're out of that location. And so what that is for me is that it's just, I have to be 100% ahead of the game and anticipate questions, because they're going to have questions about each one of their character arcs in each one of the episodes, and how if they say the wrong line in episode 1 and they don't say the right clue or the right thing, that affects the outcome in episode 5, because then there's no connective tissue. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's all out of order. And so my process is I really just approach it like a film. I'm downloaded 100% up here about the script, character, intention, and motivation. And I just basically become a walking encyclopedia of this is what needs to happen next. And it's kind of crazy. It's maddening, but I'm used to it now. And so if I had to go back to a slower pace of just like filming little micro moments, I think I'd lose my mind. I love how I'm filming things. And it would not surprise me if more bigger productions start doing things like this. Movies are done like that. You film a movie all out of order. Nothing makes sense. Yeah. And this is just that times a series.
But I do like that approach of doing, approaching it like a film, where you just, like you said, 6 episodes, and though it may be out of order, as long as you know where the story is going, then
it doesn't matter.
I never thought of that approach, because what I've heard for the most part with TV is that it moves at a very fast pace compared to film. But I like that film approach. That's really cool.
Yeah, we film at a fast pace. Like we will film anywhere between 8 and an average between 8 and 12, sometimes up to 15 pages a day. We are moving super fast. And I've been on television sets as an actor and a stunt guy, and they average about that. They do, I've seen them do 8 to 12 pages a day. Some of them less. And then, I was just shadow directing on NCIS New Orleans, and they did it. They had some page counts, I think, that hit the 12 number mark. I think it was at 12. But they in one way have less moving pieces than I did, just because we did a lot on location and we didn't have the infrastructure, I guess you could say. Like they've got, a crew of 100 plus people making sure everything happens, and I've got a crew of 40. So for us to get 12 pages off in a day it's a challenge, but we get it done. I really like it, but yeah, I think more people should do it like that.
Yeah, no, I actually really like that approach. Talk to me briefly about your series, House Divided. I haven't had a chance to check that out yet, but I would love to at some point.
Yeah, that's a fun one. So A House Divided is about the Sanders family, and they're super wealthy billionaire class family, very prominent African-American family living in Los Angeles. And the matriarch of the family passes away. She dies in the first scene. And it's basically that just kind of sets off this chain reaction of horrible events that just keep compounding. And the next thing you know, this family is just turning into something that it was just never meant to be. But it's just, oh my God, there's so much that happens. I don't even know how to describe it. Just watch A House Divided on UMC.TV or Amazon Prime. And it's just sit back for the ride. It's insane. Like, Bronx SIU is got this sort of darker tone, this darker edge to it, where you can see that the characters are just barely holding it together. They come in this way in Bronx SIU, they're barely holding it together. And at the end of episode 6, everyone is just, they're broken people. With A House Divided, you're meeting everybody at their best, and you see them try so hard to hold on to that image of themselves as the foundation underneath them is slowly crumbling, and you're just waiting for someone to finally just kick that last leg out and have it all tumble. It's worth the ride.
No, I'm excited. Sure. I'll definitely have to check it out.
Cool.
But if people want to watch Bronx SIU, where can they check that out?
I would say Amazon Prime and UMC.TV. Those are the two places. I know it's on other places, but if you go to those two places, for sure, it'll be on there.
Fantastic. So Eric Funden, who's watching on Facebook Live, asked,
Hi, Eric.
Were you a part of the Bill and Ted show at Universal?
I played Ted for 6 years.
Fantastic. He says he wants to say that he saw you while he was there and saw the show. So
no, was it me? When did he see it? When did you see it, Eric? Did he hear me? I don't know if he can. When did he see the show?
Hopefully he's still watching.
Yeah.
And Carlos Longoria brings this up, and I wanted to bring this up too. So you were a stuntman in the upcoming Bill and Ted movie.
Yeah.
How was your experience on that?
It was awesome. I had one day. I just had one day doing stunts, and it was just me and just a few other stunt guys. My buddy was coordinating it, and he knew that I was just a big Bill and Ted fan to begin with, and he knew I had done the Bill and Ted show at Universal and at Universal Hollywood and Orlando. And so I remember he pulled me aside, just like, I'm going to give you this one last day I've got. It's all yours. And I was like, you would have thought that I won the lottery. I was so excited. And I showed up, and it was a miserably hot day, and I wouldn't have traded it for the world. And I played this spaceman, this giant, this big astronaut spacesuit on. And I was part of one of the big scenes there at the end. And I didn't get to meet Bill and Ted. I got to see them from a distance. I got to see and hang out next to the phone booth, which is, just as famous as Bill and Ted, and it looked awesome. I can't talk about it because it hasn't come out. But if what I saw is any indication of how the movie's going to be, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a wild ride for sure.
It's interesting because you think of movies that came out in the 80s and 90s, and it seems like they're creating sequels and reboots to all these things, and you're like, I don't know if it's gonna work because it's been so long. And I'll use the upcoming Top Gun movie. The original came out in the 80s, and it was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Yeah. But when I saw the trailer, I was like, this looks really good. And I thought the same thing with Bill and Ted when that trailer hit. The internet lost its mind. Like, we cannot wait for this to come out.
I think it comes down to writing. Like, I don't think Top Gun or Bill and Ted will ever be as good in our minds. It'll be better, always going to be better in our minds. But I think that they're actually stepping up and remaking these movies, not remaking, but giving us some sort of closure to these movies. Because Bill and Ted, we never knew, right? Did they write the song that saved the world?
Yeah.
Obviously not. Look at 2020. Clearly, we're living in the version where they have not written the song yet. And, we need them really bad to write this song. I think it's great. And the trailer looks great, but it comes down to what we were talking about earlier, script writing, and it's the story. If you really dedicate yourself to writing a good story and not just sort of trying to placate fanboys or what you think people will want, but write an honest to God good story, it's going to show in the final product. It's going to be there.
Absolutely. No, Bill and Ted 3 is the movie that we as a society need right now.
Oh gosh, we need it. We be excellent to one another.
Absolutely.
It's pretty simple, but it's hard to come by right now.
Absolutely. So as we start to wrap up here, I always like to end my conversations with those who work in the film industry with this. What's one piece of advice you could give to someone who wants to work in film and TV, whether it's an actor or a writer or director?
Just go for it and understand that, unless you're one of those rare 1 in a million, it is not going to happen overnight. And I hope it does for you. I hope that you just walk down the street and like, yes, you're exactly what we're looking for. And it happens sometimes, but that happens when you've been in the game for a while and you are in the right place at the right time because you know where to be. Just go for it and know that like your first film may not be that great and your first audition, you may not be that good, but it's not about the first one. It's about the next one and the next one and the 15th and the 100th that you do down the road, and just go for it. Enjoy the fact that you don't know what's going on, because those are some of the best moments in my life because I didn't know what was happening. So I didn't know the rules. So I just did it my way and it worked because I just reinvented the process as I went. And I think that's a great It's just a great place to be, sort of this blissful ignorance as you head towards something. So just go for it. I can't put it more simple than that. Go for it and enjoy it. Just, try.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I tell people the same thing when I did the Parker syndrome. There was a lot that I prepped for, but there was still a lot that I didn't know. Yeah. And it was the best way to learn, is just to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
And Eric Funden chimed in. He says he doesn't know the exact date, but it was in the late 90s.
The late 90s. I don't know. See, I did 1999. So, but he may have seen. We all look the same. They put us in the same costume and say. But thanks, Eric. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any websites, social media, anything you want to plug so the viewers and listeners can follow you?
Yeah, if you want, I don't post much on the social media, but on Instagram, it's Michael Mayhall. That's where you can find me on Instagram. Probably if you just Googled my name, you could find my website, michaelmayhall.com. Other than that, check out A House Divided and Bronx SIU on umc.tv.
Fantastic. Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to do this show. Congratulations again on the Emmy nomination, and look forward to seeing what's next for you in the future.
Thanks, man, and thank you very much. And you're out in Pensacola, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm out in Pensacola. So.
Pensacola. I love Pensacola. You have fun. Stay safe out there, okay?
You too.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Mike Mayhall for coming on the show. Be sure to check out both his series, Bronx SIU and A House Divided, and follow him on social media to find out what he'll be up to next. For next week's show, I'll be doing another Facebook Live interview, and joining me on the show will be writer, director, and producer, and one of my mentors, Steve Wise. You know him from various review segments that we've done on the show, most notably the Star Wars marathon that we did late last year. He's been on the show a couple of times to talk about Jojo Rabbit and Knives Out and many other appearances, but he hasn't been on the show to just straight up discuss filmmaking in quite some time, and we'll be discussing screenwriting. Anything from getting your story started, getting critical feedback, character development, dialogue, what to do with your script when it's done. We'll be discussing all of that and more this upcoming Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time on Facebook Live. So hopefully you guys can make it. If you can't, the audio version will be out for next week's episode. But until then, you can check out past episodes of the show on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you can get podcasts. Just search for The Derek Diamond Experience. And if you could, leave me a review, because the more reviews I get, the more exposure I get to the podcasting public. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at DDiamondPodcast. And of course, thank you to my close friends, the Unicorn Wranglers, for providing the theme music for the podcast. You can check out all their music on Apple Music, Google Play, and Spotify. That's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you once again to Mike Mayhall. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a safe and fun weekend. Thank you for tuning in to another awesome episode of the Derek Diamond Experience. I am your host, Derek Diamond, and we'll see you guys this Sunday on Facebook Live.